Welcome to Talking All Things Business. I'm your host, Faye Waterman, and today my guest is Nicole DeMatos. Now, Nicole has a business called Real Fringe Hair Bands, and it is also known as a confident locks because confidence rocks.
That is true. That's our tagline.
That's your tagline.
Yes.
So Nicole, let's go back a little bit before you starting your business, and let's learn a little bit about who you are. When you were growing up, who inspired you? Who was there that you looked up to?
My dad, when I was younger, I think he was a really good listener. If you did something wrong or said something wrong, it will be Dad that sat down and said to you, I was a bit disappointed about the choice that you made, and this is why. And I was actually, those are the life lessons and stuff like that were really important to me when I was growing up.
How many children actually get that opportunity to be able to be sat down and have a conversation and to be made aware of why they were disappointed, not just saying they're disappointed, but explaining the reason why. And how important is that? Because
it's huge. We
grow up having an understanding of that's what we will do with our children.
Exactly. And then we do it with our boys. I've got a 9 and a 12-year-old, and we make sure that our family meals, we try and have them together around the table as much as possible. All media is turned off, and you hear about each other's days, and you take an active interest, and you're asking each other questions. And I think if you instill that in the kids earlier on, it's a life skill. It's not about them, and it's about being selfless and asking questions and actively listening to each other and getting into each other's worlds.
And not much of that happens these days because everyone's so busy. You might get the dinner ready for the kids, and then you might have something later when you finish doing this or that. So it's really important that if you can sit down and have a conversation, turn off all media so that you're not distracted, and ask the questions of how your day was and what's been going on, and if there was something that was troubling them, they can feel comfortable having that conversation, which is a really important part of a child's life and a really important part of a parent's life, to understand where the child's coming from.
I think kids grow up so quickly. If you can instill all of that when they're younger and lay that foundation thick, it can hopefully help them make better choices in their friendships, in their reactions to things that happen to them, that they're not necessarily a victim, and they're taught to build other people up.
And they can assess a situation. They're not really reacting to that situation. They can step out of it and have a look at it, remove the emotion, and then go back in it and say, well, this is whatever it is. So that's fabulous learnings for a child to be able to have an environment like that to grow up in. When you were at school, did you have a teacher that inspired you, or friends that inspired you? Or
there was a teacher, Mrs. Simbeljevic, I think was her maiden name, and when she got married, she was Mrs. Orvad. And I remember, I think it was in grade 5 or 6, she'd left the school by that stage, she'd moved away. And Mum actually took me over to her house, and she was saying how I had inspired her by listening and wanting to do the right thing in class and setting the example for other sort of kids around me. I suppose I was a bit of a goody-goody two-shoes. But to make that connection as I got a little bit older and let her know the influence and the impact that she had on me.
Which is really nice, for a teacher to find out that you had a respect for them and that you really admired the way that they taught and gave you guidance and direction.
Absolutely.
Great. So in high school, did you know what you wanted to be as you were growing up?
I always knew that I wanted to do nursing.
What was that? How was that inspired?
I don't know. I think when I was a lot younger, I wanted to be either a hairdresser, which is hilarious where things have actually ended up, or a flight attendant. And I actually discussed this with a patient the other day, and he said it's actually got to do with you serving.
Yes.
And obviously nursing is aligned with that. But my throughout my life, I was really, really introverted. like I worked at McDonald's in Preston during year 12 and throughout my uni studies. And I would vomit before each shift because I had to talk to the public. Like I was so nervous. We would go to family gatherings and I would sit in the corner with my colouring in book to not even to avoid talking to people, but I was just really, really quiet. And both my mum and my stepmother said, I don't think nursing is for you. Obviously, knowing that you have to have that confidence and that bedside manner. And you have to ask questions and you have to listen and you really have to get out of your comfort zone and build that rapport quickly. They said, whatever you do, I don't think nursing is for you, Nick. Look through the VCAT book or whatever it was back then.
Yes.
And choose something else. And the other thing I chose was marine biology because I like dolphins, which I cannot think of anything worse. Like I still love dolphins, but to do that as your
profession,
job, like no.
Okay.
So yeah.
Right. So nursing was and it came to fruition.
It did.
So how long, when you did your nursing training, and you were going through, and you obviously had choices of the areas that you wanted to work in. So what areas did you start to work in before you are where you are today?
So you have different medical experiences and surgical experiences in your undergrad through the 3 years of nursing training. I was always drawn to the medical. I found surgical very quick-paced and very task-orientated, like the dressings and things like that. I was more about building relationships and asking questions and building a rapport with the family and the patient as well. So my first ever placement during my graduate year was at Panch, which closed down the year after my graduate year and moved up to Epping and became the Northern.
What's Panch?
So it was Preston and Northcote Community Hospital, which is where I was actually born.
Oh,
and so I started my nursing my first year out. Yeah, where I was born, which was amazing. And my first ever placement was on a heavy stroke ward.
Right.
And people are there for a decent period of time. You're helping them at this, one of the darkest parts of their life, and they don't know if they're going to get better. But you build up that relationship, that rapport really well with the patient, with their loved ones and the extended family and friends. And that's what I was drawn to.
How did you overcome that shyness when you chose to go in and work with stroke patients and patients like that, which you had to have a lot of connection with?
Yes.
And develop that rapport and to speak to their families when they ask questions. How did you overcome that shyness? What was it that made that happen?
I say it's my my husband, who I've been together with for 25 years, and my nursing brought me out of my shell. I had to have that confidence, and I see that like a confidence sometimes in my younger child, and I think, oh gosh, and it's not us instilling it in him. It's just the way he's made and genetics, and we just try and find ways to overcome that the way that my parents did with me. But I met my husband first year of my nursing training when I was really introverted and meek and mild, and I don't know, just feeling comfortable in my own skin and feeling safe in that environment to show up and be me was really important.
Very important. The job role that you've taken on is massive. Talk about some of the experiences that you actually had in the first years of your nursing. Some of the things that were really good and some of the things that really challenged you.
So when it came to finishing up my graduate year, I was lucky enough to, you have like you can choose an elective. So you can choose to go into pediatric nursing, so looking after kids. You can go into peri-op, so in the operating theatre. You can go into mental health. And I chose peri-op because I thought I would either go oncology, so cancer nursing, or I would go and be like a scrub nurse or an anaesthetic nurse in the operating theatre.
Okay.
It had a massive impact with me because we were actually in the middle of surgery, and I would ask the surgeon a question, or more than likely they would ask me a question, and I would answer them. And then I found out afterwards in the assessment that you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to talk to the surgeon through the scrub nurse. It was very hierarchical on what you could and couldn't do. And I didn't know about it at the time.
Right.
So to me, I thought, you know what? Everyone's got to work together as a team. And that actually decided for me that I didn't want to work in that area. And I wanted to be able to talk to the patients. I wanted them awake. So that's when I completely went oncology nursing in 2000. I always knew that I wanted to go that way.
It would have been interesting. What was the response that you got afterwards when you were speaking directly to the surgeon? What did they say to you?
Oh, they were amazing. They were showing me, parts of the body, like during the surgery, and getting, I was actively engaged and I was learning, and it was reciprocated. I was asking them questions and they seemed really open and happy to being asked questions and to having someone listen to them. And as I say, it was only during the assessment that I was educated that that's not how things work. And I had to go with that's the way of doing things. But that's not the feel that I got during my placement for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It was a shame that I didn't know about that beforehand, because then, but anyway, it was meant to be, because I've ended up where I was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it actually helped you make a decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
As to where you went. Now, when you, in your first year of oncology nursing, what was that like?
It actually felt like home. I came back from nursing in England and traveling Europe for 9 months, and I knew before I went overseas that I really wanted to do oncology nursing. But I thought, this is something that I've always dreamt of doing. Let's do this first. And then when I come back, and before I went overseas, I was working between the Northern Hospital and John Faulkner. I wanted to be able to compare and contrast private nursing, private hospital nursing and public hospital nursing. And when I came back, I thought, I know exactly what I want to do. Let's do it. And the largest oncology unit close to me, living in Preston at the time, was the Austin.
Right.
So that's where I chose to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that?
It was amazing. It was so good.
Did you make a lot of friends along the way?
Yeah, actually I went to a 50th birthday party yesterday with a staff member that I started on the ward with, and I caught up with 5 people that have since retired from that ward that came to the birthday party as well, and just seeing, reminiscing basically about different experiences that we had. And my first ever unit manager, we were speaking about the fact that there wasn't actually an interview process as such. In 2000, we sat down, we had a coffee. She said, I want you to work. Are you available next week? And that was how it went. It was amazing.
But how nice was it yesterday to be able to reminisce
phenomenal
and have conversations with people that you were working closely with?
Yeah, and that I looked up to. They had years and years of oncology experience.
Yes.
And for me, I had nursing experience, but not oncology experience. So it was amazing.
They were your teachers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And there are amazing people out there like that, aren't there? Absolutely amazing people. So when you have progressed right through and you've been oncology nurse for 19 years. 19 years. That's a heck of a long time to be in that field. So how do you deal with the challenges, the things that people are going through, and you're watching them and you feel like you can't help them, but you're there to support them anyway? What is it like? What's that gut feeling for you when you know that a patient hasn't got a hope in hell of living? So giving them the best quality of what they can have in the last days or hours, what's it like?
I think when I worked on the oncology wards between 2000 and 2004, and during that time in 2002, I did my postgraduate certificate in oncology, hematology and palliative care. So I was lucky enough at the Austin to rotate to all areas of oncology. So you got to see radiotherapy, day oncology, the 2 oncology wards. You spent time with the palliative care nurse, time on the palliative care ward. So you had a great overall view of the journey that the patient and the relatives possibly go through. For me, I was young and I got very, very involved in the patients and the relatives. and I found it quite difficult to distance myself when I worked on the ward, because you're looking after them and you build that strong rapport.
You do.
So when in 2004 I decided to go to day oncology, I found that people were more well when they came in and they were having chemotherapy, that a lot of them were still working, or they were grandparents still picking their grandkids up from school, or they were parents with young kids, that chemotherapy session was more a blimp on the radar rather than being their whole focus and them needing to stay in the hospital.
And how positive were these people as they came?
Oh, they're incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And particularly when they know that they have a life-threatening disease, with a positive attitude,
they're a massive inspiration.
Which you have to have if you have any kind of disease or anything like that, so that you can get through it and take control of your life. You have the experts there ready to help you and support you, but you also have a responsibility to yourself as a patient to do the right things by you so that you can get well, extend your life, and make sure you're around.
I find that the patients are told this, I call it a black thing. This something that will change potentially, that will change their life forever. And they actually make choices to say all the things that we always think we've got forever to say, to do all the things and prioritize the things that we think that we've got all the time in the world to do later on. They actually almost pull the bull by the horns and decide what's important and flush the rest. And I think that is a really amazing way to live.
Great lesson to be learned, isn't it?
Oh, and you're around it all the time.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So the majority of them, do you ever see, and I'm just going to go to the other side, do you ever see anyone come in and really feel sorry for themselves and say, you know, I'm doomed, et cetera, et cetera?
Very rarely.
Very rarely. How fantastic is that?
It's amazing, because people say, so what do you do? I say, I'm an oncology nurse. And their instant reaction, without even knowing that they're doing it, and they go, oh, like, it's not like that. It's the most phenomenal, inspirational area to work in.
Rewarding.
Massively rewarding. You know, only last week we had a young 31-year-old who we'd been looking after for 22 months. She had metastatic breast cancer, and she and her now husband were childhood sweethearts.
Right.
And then she'd been waiting to be stable enough in her disease to take the next step and actually get married. They'd been engaged for a period of time. And she had died the weekend before. As I say, she was 31. And the husband, the day before the funeral, came and gave the most beautiful handwritten card to a few of us on the oncology ward, with a block of her favourite chocolate, with a $50 gold class pass. And I'm like, it's her funeral tomorrow. How on earth could you possibly drive 45 minutes into the hospital, be reminded about when she was actually in here having treatment? She's been gone for less than 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah.
And that's the privilege of the people that you have the joy to meet. And he said, how could I not? You guys made such a difference in her life, allowing her to show up and be her. And she's one of the inspirations.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah. And
woo. Yeah, I find it difficult to comprehend that sort of thing.
Oh, I was a mess when I received it. How do I go in and then give chemotherapy to my next patient? I just needed a moment to stay still, hide in the toilet for 2 minutes, gather myself, and then continue on and be that space of a different possibility for the next person, to allow them to show up and be them.
Yeah, and that is a special quality. Not everybody has it.
People drawn to oncology seem to have it.
They
just have that human aspect and the ability to build that rapport quickly. And it's not a false rapport. You are really interested in how they're going and their loved ones as well.
You wouldn't be there if you weren't interested. You wouldn't be there working in those kind of surroundings if you weren't that type of person that could have empathy, create, basically they're friendships. You develop a rapport, but they're really friendships, and you get to know who they are, you get to learn about their life, you get to learn about their family.
It's a privilege.
All of those things.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I would never choose to be a nurse, but that's me.
But your ability to ask questions and get into people's worlds, so you would have trouble potentially drawing a line and being able to leave that there.
Yeah, I would, because I've become too attached to that.
And that's why I left the ward and palliative care when I worked there. As much as I loved working in that space, my next door neighbour of, 23 years was on palliative care when I was there. And that whole, to me, it was like a blackness. How can they be there one day and then I'm off the weekend and then they're not there anymore? And that hole that creates for the family afterwards. And
talk about the families, and because you're connected with the family as well, and if they're going through care for a long period of time, their friends tend to drop off, their family members tend to drop off a little bit, because it becomes, I don't know whether it becomes a chore or it becomes too hard for the family and friends to be able to, they're too scared to say something in case they say the wrong thing, or they just don't know what to say, so they stay away. What would you recommend for those friends and family of the patients that are going through what they're going through?
Only last week, someone that I know who works in the hospital field in radiology said, Nick, I've got someone that we work with, husband has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She's a very practical sort of a person. What would you recommend as a gift? And I said, if she's practical, one thing that you don't want to worry about when you're going through treatment is housework, or doing gardening, and you just want to be comfortable. And so I suggested, I've got a phenomenal oncology masseur who is based in Montmorency, and she sometimes chooses to do house calls for even people with MS and things like that as well. I said, I can give you her details. I highly recommend her. If you get home help through the council, they can do so much. But how about some vouchers to be able to get housework done, to be able to get gardening done? Send them on a weekend away, give them something to look forward to, something else to focus on, to have that quality time, especially when this person is so young. Yes as well, something to remember, rather than remembering all the hospital stays and all the other noise that has to go on at that period of time. And it is pretty full on for them, isn't it? And to, once that diagnosis has been given to them, they've got to go away and absorb all that information and say, well, what am I going to do here? Am I going to sit back and feel sorry for myself, or am I going to take responsibility and look after myself and ask all the questions and do the research and make sure I know exactly what this treatment's going to do for me, if there's any alternative treatments that that they can actually do. And do the mainstream, but also they have an option of going elsewhere. But it's all about that support, that immediate 100%. Support that they need. I find there's a lot of support given for the person having treatment, which has to happen. It clearly has to happen. But a lot of the time there is this huge void for the loved ones that are sitting there, and you can sometimes walk in an area and you can just feel this heaviness. And that's why, to be that space of a different possibility, to get into the world of the support person as well, because if they crash and burn, they're no good to themselves or the person going through treatment. Making sure that they're getting the rest that they need, that they have something else to focus on for themselves beyond what's going on in the hospital and treatment, that they actually have someone looking out for them too. It's really important. And they can continue on functioning in life, normal day-to-day stuff, without feeling guilty of not doing what they, think they should be doing when they don't need to. They're just there for them, to have that conversation, ask them how they are. Do you want a cup of tea? Would you like to go to the movies? Would you like to go for a walk? Do you want to come to the supermarket with me? Who do you talk to? when you're having a really dark down day, either asking the patient or the relatives, if you're struggling, who's your go-to person? When was the last time you spoke to them? How did it make you feel?
Yeah.
And just reminding them that they need that self-care and that love and that concentration on themselves as well.
That nurturing.
Yeah.
And that they, because if they don't do that, they're not going to be any good for their patient.
They get worn out.
Oh, it's exactly.
They take a huge energetic and emotional burden on themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really interesting because I've seen it with a few people I know. And, you know, I've been involved with what you're doing for a while now, and understanding the oncology and what's the processes, and seeing people and speaking to people, and becoming aware of all the pros and the cons of the treatments, and then living at home and living that normal life as much as possible. It's a tough gig.
Well, you hear, like, there was someone that I looked after, it might be a year ago, and she came in and she was always really upbeat, and she was in tears this day, and I'm like, what is going on? She said someone that I considered myself very, very close with, one of the school mums, actually crossed over the road today and looked really uncomfortable because she obviously didn't know what to say, because I've unfortunately lost my hair now despite the scalp cooling and everything, and I felt so bad about making her feel uncomfortable, and this is someone that I thought that I could rely on no matter what. If I needed help picking the kids up from school, if I was having a down day, that I could just show up and be me.
Yeah.
And she said it's obviously thrown something so big up for them, because you don't know what's going on in someone else's world around that point in time.
You don't. And, you know, there's lots of things going on in everybody's life.
Yes.
But when they're hit with that, friends and family, then they show up in different ways.
I think that if you don't know what to say to someone, actually owning that and saying, I wish I knew the right thing to say, but I have no words, is probably better than actually fluffing around sometimes and pretending that you have the answers, or trying to make something right. Because after a diagnosis like this, sometimes it's hard to find meaning in that.
Yeah.
And it depends on what stage people are at. If they've just been diagnosed, have they had surgery, are they needing to go through chemotherapy or radiotherapy? They just probably need to be asked a question and then shush, so that they can actually have the space and time to be able to just be themselves.
And absorb it. And you don't have to say anything anyway. You just have to be there.
That's it.
You can sit.
It's 100% right.
Whoa. It's like, yeah.
I know you've been surrounded by it lately.
Yeah,
and
I have.
I feel like I have too. And my husband said last night, Nick, you work in the area. Of course you're surrounded by it, but there's actually a lot of family and friends that have got people in their lives that have either just recently been diagnosed, or they're going through the treatment journey, or they're actually palliative care at home, end of life care.
Yeah.
And just meeting them where they're at.
Yeah. And treating them like normal.
Oh, 100%. They don't want to be wrapped in cotton wool.
Don't treat them like they're sick. Don't treat them like they're different.
No.
Give them a hard time if you need to.
Yeah.
Don't let them get away with things.
They want to be seen and treated a lot of the time. Like, everyone's different. But they just want to be known and liked and not treated any different to what they were before of the diagnosis.
Yeah. And it's just like, wow. It's really interesting because you said, I'm surrounded by it at the moment, or I'm meeting people that have been diagnosed who are in remission, and young people.
Yeah, a lot.
Are young people, and I'm thinking, wow, and they're brave and they're doing things that are amazing now they're in remission to support and help others, which is, can I say it's cool? I think it's exciting.
They create a ripple effect.
Yes.
To all those around them. Like, they could be like this, but they're not. They're so open, and they're joyful in their circumstance.
Well,
not everybody, but
well, there's a young woman I was speaking to the other day, and she said, I'm so pleased this happened to me because this is what I can do and understand now. And I know what my path is. And I suppose, if you can be grateful being diagnosed with such a disease, but the lessons that are learnt from that and the quality of life that you can have and then you can give to others. But you can also say that I understand because they've been there. Whereas someone such as myself, I can't say that I understand how you're feeling because I have no idea. I might assume it, but I don't.
No, but to say that though, I have no idea where you're at,
Yeah.
where you're at the moment.
Yeah.
But, you know, either offering to listen or to help in any way that you can, whether it be taking someone to blood test appointments or sending them a text after they've had treatment, just checking in, or making them a meal and taking it around. Like, it's not that difficult.
No, it's not. And so there's lots of lessons to be learnt from the people that are surrounding the environment of someone that's been diagnosed. And it's not all that hard, people, to give that support. You don't have to say a lot. You just have to be there. I'll do this. You know, if you need anything else, just ask. You know, it's really interesting. Okay, so from being an oncology nurse and seeing the ramifications of some of the patients and how they're dealing with their hair loss, and I've spoken to people who have women who've had these beautiful locks of hair that have fallen off, and they become a recluse more or less. They stay at home, they cut themselves off from their friends and even their family because they are ashamed of what they look like. Now, there are lots of things out there for them available that they can wear wigs and do all that sort of stuff. But you've come up with something which is really amazing, which very comfortable to wear, but it's real hair. It's not synthetic. Let's talk about where that started and what got you on this amazing journey, because it's an incredible journey.
2012, I educated a patient at what is now the Olivia Newton-John Cancer and Wellness Centre at the Austin Hospital in Heidelberg. And we knew that 3 to 4 weeks after her first dose of treatment, she would lose her hair. She came in 6 weeks later with her hair underneath the hat that she was wearing. And it was before the time of scalp cooling, so something that quite a few people choose to do now to actually retain their hair. It's literally like sticking your head in the snow. Yeah. Half an hour before the treatment starts, during the treatment, and then for an hour to hour and a half afterwards, depending on what drugs that we use.
You have freeze brain.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Yeah, we need to give people sedation to actually cope with it and lighten that burden a bit.
Wow.
So to see her walking with her hair underneath the hat, and I said, I need to know what you've done. Like, please explain. So what I didn't know during the education is that she had a background as a seamstress.
Right.
And she had taught herself how to sew her hair into like a hair extension, a hair weft.
Right.
And just a normal stretchy headband. She had sewn her hair onto that, and she put it on like a normal headband with hair at the back, with a hat over the top that she was going to wear anyway because she had no hair. And she said, Nick, when I'm having a really bad day, one of my girlfriend drives me in her car, I wind the window down, I feel my own hair on the back of my neck and everything lifts. And it's a massive coping mechanism, and it's my hair.
Yeah.
My own hair that would otherwise have gone in the bin 3 to 4 weeks after the first dose.
Or been swept off the floor,
Exactly.
Or, chunks fall out and all that sort of thing. So
I said to her, this is just amazing. Do you mind if I take photos of it? And I found the photos just a couple of weeks ago on the computer. And she said, Nick, I can see how excited you are. If you can turn this into a business, go crazy. So we researched. It was always a nag in the back of my in my mind. So researched, talked to different hairdressers, looked at how you'll possibly sew hair. And then 3 years ago, I hadn't been in contact with Naomi for, I think, 4 or 5 years. She's a seamstress, and she basically helps designers go from a concept or an idea to a prototype to then take to another manufacturer.
Right, yep.
And I rang her October, this day after. As I say, I hadn't spoken to her in years. And I said, I have an idea. And I explained to her what the idea was. And I said, but I have no idea how to go about it. She said, all right, keep researching more. Let's catch up after Christmas and let's see where this goes. I would love to help you.
Mm.
And that led to Confident Locks.
You know, and that's, you know, if you're thinking about having a haircut or you want to donate your hair, doesn't matter whether it's coloured or just normal, you can, what do? You put it into ponytails, don't you?
Yeah, so the best way that we found for the hair to be cut, especially for the person who's actually donating the hair, if you have quite thick hair, the hair can be put into 4 to 6 separate bunches. The hair is cut a centimetre above those elastic bands, which need to be really tight, and then it makes it easy for the hairdresser to just style that hair for you afterwards, rather than putting it in a ponytail, cutting that, and then you're left with that sort of shape, and that's what they've got to work with. But we accept a minimum of 15 centimetres of dyed or natural hair or grey hair, whereas a lot of other organisations in Australia need 25 to 35 centimetres, which is practically a shave for a lot of people. But it means that, like, my hair wasn't terribly long. It was probably down to here, and I created my own hair donation of 15 to 20 centimetres.
I couldn't manage that. Mine was just this, and it was all curly. I'm thinking, oh, do you wish I could, but there wasn't enough hair there, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, never mind. And there probably never will be. But it's all
right. You're helping promote it. I'm passionate about the product in other ways.
Yeah.
And can get the word out there.
So 3 years ago you started this, and you developed a prototype, and then you had to go through all the things like registering your business and doing your IP.
Putting the word out there about the fact that we accept hair, which is 15 centimetres dyed or natural. So we've been collecting hair for the last 3 years, and because we were working on getting the product patented and the name Confident Locks trademarked, so we couldn't show anything to the public as we we're working on it, otherwise we wouldn't get the patent. And of course, everyone who's donating the hair wants to actually see what we're doing. But it was this, you know, catch-22. We want to show you, but we can't. Otherwise, but, you know, people are going to get their hair cut anyway. Where else would it go? In the bin if it was less than 25 centimetres. So we've been lucky enough to collect that hair over the last 3 years. We've got thousands of hair donations.
And some of them are very special, aren't they?
But more, that's what I was about to say, more than just the hair donation, it's what has led to that hair donation. My son was diagnosed with a brain tumour and I wanted to give back. Or we're running a fundraiser through World's Greatest Shave, and my hair is dyed and no one else will accept it. And we're so glad that we heard about you. Or my mum has alopecia. She's got patches of hair missing. So I'm wanting to cut and send my hair from Queensland, which actually happened. Lisa cut her hair to create the product for her mum in Tasmania. So it's a way that you can give back, which is very practical if someone has already lost their hair.
It's amazing, isn't it? And what we do is we take our hair for granted, and we have bad hair days. And, you know, if you've got curly hair, you want straight hair. If you've got straight hair, you want curly hair. Or the style's not right, or the person didn't cut it properly, or whatever. We complain about all these things.
It's a massive, massive part of someone's identity.
Well, yeah, it is. If we don't have hair, you've seen a lot of men with shaved or bald heads, but that's a choice that they make a lot of the time, or if they're getting thin on top, so they decide to shave. But as far as a woman goes, or a child that loses their hair, it's a real confidence thing. You know,
a lot of my patients can't look at themselves in the mirror once they've lost their hair.
Because
they just don't feel like them, and then that takes a confidence hit, and a lot of people will choose not to go out during treatment.
So they'll isolate themselves, and therefore, you know, nobody will come and see them, or they don't want to be seen, so therefore they avoid all that, and people ring them, they won't answer, and then people after a period of time will just give up and say, oh, well, I'm not going to bother anymore. But you can give them back something that they haven't had, you know, they might have tried wigs and things that weren't suitable, and in the summertime you're putting wigs on and they're hot and sticky and all the rest of it, and the suction wigs and everything like that. So you've given them something that is sometimes their own hair.
Yeah.
It is soft, it's real, you can wash it, you know, do all that sort of thing. Put it on, it's comfortable, it's not sticky, it doesn't stick against your neck when it's hot, or, you know, you can have it
the top of the hair breathes. The biggest compliment we've had is that the band is really comfortable because there's silicone on it, so it stops the hairband from actually slipping, because someone will either have little or no hair.
Yeah. So they've got it, yeah.
And to allow the top of the head to breathe.
Yes.
Whereas if you have a wig on, all that heat gets trapped.
Yeah.
And a lot of my patients will have 1 or 2 wigs, but will choose not to wear them because they say they're hot, they're itchy, they can look really false. Or in winter, if you've got big scarves and hats and things like that on, if someone comes in to give you a hug and it moves, like just the fear of that, or being out in the wind, and if it's slightly a bit loose on them, some people can lose, you know, weight during their treatment, and if things don't fit the way that they used to, it's just about being able to give them back that confidence. It's just it's amazing.
And I've actually had the privilege of seeing a couple of people get their hair. Wow. That is an incredible feeling, not for them, but just to watch the emotion.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, again. But it is. It's something that's really, I think, really important for people to understand, and not just the patients and the families and the friends, but the community as a whole, because you may know somebody who is going through something, but you have no idea how to help them. And if you know about the confidence locks or the Real Fringe Hair Bands, then you can put them in touch, or you can have a conversation with Nicole, who can help you support them in a way that they never thought they could be supported. So, you know, this is something that will go international. It's just starting, it's in its infancy, but it's bound to go international, because I think that, you know, you've got that band on, and we're going to try them later, and you can put a beanie, or you can put a turban, you can dress it up, you can dress it down, you can put a peak on, you can have all that sort of stuff and really feel like normal.
Exactly.
So you've given them something that you're giving them back their life, really, and then giving them the confidence to say, I want to catch up with my friends, I want to go out to lunch, I want to go out to dinner, I want to go for a walk, I want to go to the gym.
I can show up and be me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they lose that immediately, don't they? And as you see it, they can't look at themselves in the mirror, because they don't like the way they look. And some women actually look quite good bald.
Absolutely.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
I saw someone the other day, and she was bald, and she was walking around bald, and I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, wow, that's confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's confidence. But then you can also pick people who, I was somewhere the other day and I was watching this lady, and she had this kind of turban on, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm curious, because I'm curious. And I wanted to go over and talk to her, but I thought I can't be rude, to say, look, if you've lost your hair, this is an opportunity for you. But, you know, and so I'm aware of all this now, aware of this. And
so now, after 3 years, with finally having the patent and having the trademark, the main thing for us is being able to tell people about it.
Yeah.
So we're lucky enough and blessed enough to have it in the Cancer Council Wig Library in Victoria.
Right.
The Chris O'Brien Lifehouse Foundation in Sydney have it in their wig library.
Fantastic.
And the only other product that both of those places have are synthetic wigs.
Right.
So it's a massive point of difference, because it's a timing thing. If people are going to lose their hair or have major thinning of their hair, it would normally start 3 to 4 weeks after the first dose of treatment.
Right.
People don't know what they don't know. And if people don't know that if they get their hair cut shorter
Yes.
to try and stop that fallout,
yes,
if it's 15 centimetres, they can send it to us and we can actually create something for them with their own hair.
With their own hair, yes.
So just to be able to actually get the word out there about it is where we're at the moment. So Breast Cancer Network Australia are interested in seeing it. Peter Mack, Epworth hospitals in their wig libraries. The response has been absolutely amazing. And when I always turn up to a information session or with it on, with like a beret or a hat or something like that. And about 20 minutes into our conversation, I take it off. I'm like, so I suppose you wanted to see it, and take it off. And they're like, what? We had no idea. I'm like, that's the response I want, that it doesn't stick out like a sore toe.
Yes.
Like some wigs are fantastic.
Yes.
But a full real head wig, my patients have told me, and when we ran focus groups before we went live, only in August, that a full head real hair wig will set them back between $1,200 and $4,000.
I was going to say $4,000.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, particularly when they're going through the treatments and it's
Absolutely.
costing them, the medications and everything like that.
Not being able to work the way that they did.
Yeah, and takes a toll on them. So therefore, if they can cut their own hair and have it made into this Real Fringe hairband and wear it, how fantastic is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do we want to try some?
Yeah, let's do that.
Now, wait a minute. We'll just bring this over here. This is someone's hair, and it is actually, lights and dark shades in it. But this is the band. So talk about the band there.
So it was important for us for the band to be comfortable, that there was no fear that the band would move or roll up. It needed to have the silicone on it to stop it from slipping, because if you've got no hair or very, very little hair, you've got nothing to grip.
Yeah.
But then it needs to be comfortable. People with sensitive skin have tested it. People that have had whole head radiotherapy have tested it to see that it's comfortable on them, because a lot of the time they don't like anything touching their head, because it can be irritating and affected after the radiotherapy.
Yeah.
And generally for them, if we know the reason that they're having it, we just make the band a little bit bigger. So all we need to know from people is, what colour hair do you want? What length of hair do you want? And what texture? Do you want it wavy? Do you want it straight? And their head circumference. And then we can make it up for them.
Have you a little hat that we can pop on?
I do.
You can pop that on so that you can actually see the change in the, so there, look at that. And you'd never know the difference.
So people that have had chemotherapy or whole head radiotherapy will generally wear a turban, a hat or a scarf.
Yes.
Put a little bit of hair underneath it and it looks like a fashion statement rather than them looking sick.
Yeah, and that looks fabulous, just from that baldness on the top with the hair at the back. No one would actually know the difference, that there's no hair underneath there. Now, Nicole, are you going to put one on?
I can.
I want to see you put one on, because I'm then going to put one on. And I've got mine here, which is curly, because I'm curly. And I don't have to put my hair back because there's not much at the back to put back. But anyway, we're going to have a go at this.
So the hair can be worn at the back, as we're doing now. Or if... So we've got some that are shorter, some that are longer. You're only limited really by the length of the actual hair donation.
Tuck my hair behind my ears and then pop this back on again. But this is fun. And it's real hair, so it's getting in the road.
So if it's worn at the front, you can look like Cousin It, having it literally the hair at the front and then part it and put clips in there, and then you can have a little bit of hair dangling down and that little bit of a fringe at the front. Or if people are doing scalp cooling, sometimes it can be quite difficult to get the contact of the cold cap on the top of the head, and that's where you'll actually see a lot of that looks fantastic.
Oh, I've got long hair now,
Oh, it looks very French.
Very, very French. How's that?
That looks amazing. It looks great. Yeah, that's exactly the look that we're trying to achieve. And because the top of the head is either bald or there's, a centimetre of hair generally starting to grow back, it means that someone can look like they've got long hair and the heat is escaping through the top of their head.
I'll just put my hair back. Flick it back.
So with someone who has thinning hair at the top of the head for a very long time, no doubt.
For a very long time. I haven't had hair that long. That's really nice.
So you can turn it backwards and actually have the hair going back down the back of the band and blend it in with their own hair. So we can try and colour match it as best we can. There's a lot of it's not a matter of people going online and purchasing a product. There's a lot of conversation around it. And, quite often I'll show someone 5 different hair wefts. We've got this colour, we've got this colour, we've got this length, we've got this texture. Which one would you like to choose? Send us your head circumference, and then we have it made. It's amazing.
Just a minute.
And to go from a ponytail hair donation to an actual hair weft that is not on the band, it's a process. It's a 5-step process.
5-step process.
5-step process takes 4.5 hours.
4.5 hours for one hair weft.
For one hair weft, absolutely.
And
it's unique.
Yeah. And then the rest of the process takes place, but you've got to work with the hair first.
Correct.
Go through the 5 steps and then put it on the band.
Yeah, put it on the band, and then we wash, treat and dry and then style the hair, and then it's ready for the recipient.
So all up it would take 10 hours?
It depends. Curly hair is harder to deal with than straight hair. Some people choose to straighten their hair before they send the hair donation in and just let us know that the hair is curly. I would say on average it probably takes about 5.5 to 6 hours.
5.5
for each hairband to be made.
Yeah. And that's a process in itself, isn't it? Whereas that's all hand done, isn't it? The wefting. Then the machine takes, it's still hand done, isn't it? Because you've got to stitch it with the machine, and put it all together and all the rest of it. So, the process is well worth the effort.
Absolutely.
For people to be able to feel amazing.
It's worth everything.
Yeah. And if I wanted long hair, I could just buy one of these and just...
And you would put your beret or your turban or your scarf or whatever on and be out in the community.
Yeah, and no one would know.
No one would know.
I could disguise myself, go out with my little peak on and walking and doing all that sort of thing and have long hair. And if I showed this to my children, they'd have a fit. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
So, doing all this... what's the satisfaction for you? What is the feeling that you actually get out of this when you see the response of a client? I won't call them a patient because they're not a patient, they're your client. And you fulfill that void that they've had or they know they're going to have. What's that feeling for you like?
It's phenomenal. I can actually do my oncology nursing in a space that is not constricted by a really busy day oncology unit where you might have people booked in every half an hour or an hour. So you've got this limited period of time to be able to give them your undivided attention. I've been able to listen to someone talk about different side effects of their treatment, and because oncology is my background, I can actually give them some hints and tips or, recommend that they head back to their oncologist or their hematologist or the oncology nurses which are looking after them to be able to troubleshoot some of those things for them. I can actually do my job better in that space, I find, without all the extra time restraints.
Yeah, because you have that understanding. You've been there, you've watched it, you've worked with them. And you've experienced all the things that they've kind of experienced from the other side, but seeing them go through it and working with them as they're going through it and supporting them and their families and everything like that. How do their families react when they see
that? We've had quite a few testimonies back because the product is currently on people's heads in Darwin, Queensland, Victoria and Tasmania. And we launched in August when the patent went through. So we're not even at the end of October yet.
No.
So it's been amazing to be able to get the product out there so quick. But the written testimonials, I got one the other day and I was actually crying. I just finished work and I was like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it makes it all worthwhile because it's been a lengthy journey.
And you know, nobody sees behind the scenes what goes on, do they?
Yeah, the supposed overnight success.
Yeah, to get the result that you're getting now, to provide the product for your clients and give them back their life, but nobody sees all the angst and all the stress and all the things that have gone on behind the scenes to get to this point, to make it happen. It's
those testimonies. So someone in Queensland was the first ever customer to create the product with her own hair. She was 41 and she had a full real hair wig. Her sister-in-law had bought it for her and it was $3,500. And so she had cut her hair. She'd saved it. She knew that we weren't live yet. And because it was using her own hair, I said, not until the patent is in will I accept your hair to be able to create this. And to send her photos of it when we'd actually created it for her. And she actually sent me video footage of her opening the packaging and then putting it on the first time. And she is an inspiration in the oncology unit where she's still having treatment.
Really?
And her oncologist last week said to her, I need to know what you've done. How have you still got your hair? And she took her hat off and he said, I need flyers, I need business cards, I need to know to be able to tell my other patients about this product and that this is an option for them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. And what do you see, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
Oh, wow.
Where would you like to see it in 5 years from now?
I would love to see it in every wig library, in every oncology unit. The Alopecia Areata Foundation already know about it and very excited about it. I would just want it to be known. I would love to be able to give as many people back their confidence as possible by creating it with their own hair before they lose it. So
that's an education thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I want it. I want to get the word out there about it.
So how could you do that? You could have a big poster in each hospital with the story of how to preserve your hair, and if you lose it, not in those words, when you lose your hair from treatment, you can use your hair afterwards and feel good again.
Absolutely.
So there needs to be posters in all hospitals, all doctor surgeries, all over.
Well, Look Good, Feel Better are very interested in taking the product on and having our flyers in all the show bags for women in Victoria and Tasmania, because I've met with the state manager. Just to let people know that it exists, that it is alternative to a synthetic wig or an expensive full head wig. It's just an option. It's not going to be for everyone, but to actually give people that power back and that choice back.
And it is a choice, isn't it?
It is a choice.
It's an option. It's a choice. You can wear wigs. You can wear this. You can do both. It just depends on the situation. You might be going to a fancy dress, so you might need to wear a wig. Then you might, just every day, you might just want to wear your own hair that you lost, but it's yours. And let's talk about, I can't remember her name on the poster over there, alopecia.
Oh, Shay, my alopecia ambassador, yes.
Shay, this young lady who's had no hair since she was 12 years of age.
So she started losing her hair when she was 7. Apparently she started losing it from the part line. She used to, the hair was sort of receding from the part line. And by the age of 10, she had no hair. So I met her 2-3 years ago, and she's actually the support ambassador for the Australia Alopecia Areata Foundation. and I'm lucky enough to have her as my alopecia ambassador because she's the expert in this. She's been living with it for 23 years.
Yes.
So Faye was actually at a filming day that we had, and Shay received her hair. So her mum had given me her hair and her sister's hair, and we'd created it into a hairpiece on the hairband for her to wear that day.
And she's sitting there and she's going, "This is my hair.
Yes.
This is my hair."
She's been wearing suction-based wigs since the age of 15.
And she's going, "This is my hair."
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was so powerful.
Yes.
And so she can do that every day now without having to worry about the suction.
She could put her hairband with her hair on, take her daughter to school, run her dance classes. It's an alternative to a suction-based wig.
Absolutely.
Which the suction-based wigs are gorgeous, but they cost upwards of $4,000. Not everyone has $4,000 sitting around to be able to get a full head suction-based wig.
That's so true.
And Shay says it's so easy. I just put it on my head, wash my hair like I normally would in the shower, hang it up on a coat hanger, let it air dry. Then I can style it and dry it and straighten it the same as what I would if the hair was actually on my head. It's great. It's so
great.
Cool.
Well, I'm going to take mine off because you see,
you've really got hat hair now. That's funny.
I get really good hat hair. Now, I just got to tidy up. This is what I do with my hair every day. But that felt so comfortable, and to have long hair. I mean, when I was young, I had long hair, but you know, as I've gotten older, my hair just shrinks up. It curls so much. But that felt wonderful. Wonderful to have that on. So easy and so simple to be able to carry around. You know, how would you store that?
So the way that I sort of carry them around, I've got a press studded case. Otherwise, the other way, and I know that Shay does this too, you just wrap it around and put it in either a drawstring bag or a Ziploc bag. Voila.
How easy is that? And it doesn't take up much space. So you can have, you know, you can have interchangeable ones. So you could, you know, have a different colour for the mood or whatever is going on.
Exactly.
And yeah.
And you can straighten it and curl it the way that you would normally do that with hair on your head.
Yeah. So with maintaining it, washing it, do you have a special shampoo that you would use or what?
All of the care instructions are actually on our website, but basically you want to be able to protect the colour in it because we accept dyed hair as well. You want it to have no parabens, no sulfates, no sulfurs or anything like that in it. And you would use a heat protective spray on it before you were to actually use straighteners, which anyone should use on their hair anyway to be able to protect their hair. But yeah.
Great. I've got some
people that have had it for the last 8 weeks that have been, you know, straightening it and washing it and drying it, just have been raving about it, which is really great.
Yeah. So if you were to give 2 tips for someone who has been diagnosed, know that they're going to have treatment where they're going to lose their hair, what would you say to them?
I would say if you wanted an alternative to either a real hair wig or a synthetic wig and your hair is more than 15 centimetres, contact Real Fringe Hair Bands and we'll see what we can create for you. Yeah.
And how can they get hold of you?
So our website is www.realfringehairbands.com.au. We also have a YouTube channel. You just search up Real Fringe Hair Bands. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And yeah.
So not hard to find you.
Not hard to find.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Nicole,
for
the story, because it is a story really, and thank you.
We're proud that it's made in Melbourne too.
Yeah. It's Australian made.
Yeah.
So thank you from, I would say, all the people that are going to come along and buy one of these, donate their hair, get it done into a weft so that they can actually wear their own hair. Incredible. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be back with some more stories from Nicole. So thank you. It is now time to sign off. I'm Faye Waterman, your host of Talking All Things Business, and my guest, Nicole DeMatos. The Real Fringe Hair Bands Confident Locks, because confidence rocks.
That's it.
Yes. Bye for now.
See you later.